The member has up to 5 minutes to debate the matter, and the parliamentary assistant to the Premier may reply for up to 5 minutes. I recognize the member from Leeds Grenville.
Speaker, I'm pleased to again highlight the inequity at the heart of this government's beer plan reform. In my question to the Premier last week, I said her motivation is obvious. Giving licenses to 450 grocery stores to stock beer is just a distraction, in what we call in political circles a channel changer. It's designed to take the public's attention off the real problems a government faces. In this case, this government needs a lot of channel changers because there are so many problems. But it really says something about their incompetence when they can't even manage a channel changer properly. That's because their beer sales plan shuts out every Ontarian in a rural community or a small town or city. No grocery store in a community with a population under 30,000 can bid on a license. Rural Ontario loses out again with this government. So I'm glad the parliamentary assistant to the Premier is here. I want him to explain to the people of Leeds Grenville why they're good enough to pay your $100 million beer tax but get none of your licenses. That's the fundamental inequity that we've got here today. You're digging deeper into our pockets, but we're getting nothing in return. It's like it's happy hour for your tax and spend cabinet, but not for the people that I represent. This isn't about convenience of picking up a six-pack at the grocery store. It's about economic development, job creation, and the viability of our rural communities. Now, I know it's hard for this government to understand, but not everyone in Ontario happens to live in a city over 30,000. I welcome the member for Etobicoke North to come to Leeds Grenville this summer. We can take a tour, and I can show you the great things that are happening in my small communities. Maybe then he'll understand why entrepreneurs in those communities are so frustrated with this plan. They can compete with any business anywhere in the province, but the Premier says they can't because their store is located in the wrong part of Ontario. In the question I mentioned Neil Kadrinkle, owner of Kadrinkle's Fresh Mart in Westport. Neil and I have talked many times about the great opportunity a license would create for his store. It would make it more of a destination for customers seeking a unique shopping experience. This man is an innovative, forward thinker. He's an award winner, and I know that he knows how to make his community prosper. So Neil can expand and hire new staff. Little wonder he described the government's plan as a mess from day one in a local newspaper article. I also mentioned what a license would mean to Lynn Lamming, owner of Kitley Grocery in Toledo. When asking my question, I heard from Greg Williams, a neighbour of Lynn's shop. He wrote to me and said how shocked he was of the Premier's response and how little she knows about rural Ontario. Here's what Greg wrote. He stated she did not want them in the rural areas because it may cause the beer store to close down. Has she ever been to a rural beer store? My closest beer store is Smiths Falls, 21 kilometres away. Next, Brockville, 29 kilometres away. How would Kitley Grocery, if given the right to sell beer, have much of an effect on these stores closing? Greg's right. The competition wouldn't close beer stores or LCBOs. The Premier's response is smokescreen. And it's not just rural communities in my riding being left with an empty mug. The same day I asked my question, it was reported that the beer store in downtown Brockville is closing at year's end. Now, I'm hoping that the city's Economic Development Department will work with me and TBS to find a new downtown location. But here's the point. In the comment section of the online story, people said it's no big deal because the Metro grocery store up the street would soon be selling beer. Well, these folks are in for a shock because it's not going to happen. Brockville's population is under 30,000, so the Premier says we don't make the grade. Premier Wynne claims I want to hand a license to every store in the province. She's wrong, and I hope her PA won't use that nonsense in his talking points today. What I want is a fair system for those 450 licenses. What I want is respect for entrepreneurs and consumers. It's a far better recipe for success, Speaker, than allowing governments to pick winners and losers. So, Speaker, this is a very fundamental question for the parliamentary assistant. It's a question of fairness for rural Ontario. So I ask the Premier's parliamentary assistant to put away his talking points, save some time, and make a simple commitment to myself and members of this side of the House. Tell them you'll stop playing postal code politics with your beer sales plan. Please come up to go to the drawing board, come up with a level playing field, and let's grow the economy in every corner of Ontario. Thank you very much, Speaker, and I look forward to the parliamentary assistant's answer to my questions.
The member from Leeds Grenville, over to the parliamentary assistant to the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, it is past the hour, the bewitching hour of 6 p.m. I commend all the individuals who are here as the core group of Parliament, yourself in the chair, the Honourable Steve Clark, House Leader of the Opposition Party, Mr. Edward Ashimi, our Cruise Director in the corner over there. I will take you, sir, at your word, the sincerity and the intensity that you deliver it. I think this place is a place that we can agree to respectfully disagree. I will accept your call or your challenge. I will aspire not to use nonsense. Perhaps it will be judged either in the press or by your committee team tomorrow whether it was or was not nonsense, but I hope whatever remarks I'm about to offer. I'm not generally in the habit of offering nonsense unless I suppose that's the goal. Having said that, I would simply as well also say that our values, perhaps, our feeling, our research on it, what we want to do for the province of Ontario differs from you. And I think that, of course, plays itself out on a daily basis, whether it's in question period or elsewhere. Your call or your invitation to come to Leeds Grenville, I think it's very much the process and procedure of this place, that any bill that is contentious, that has geographic specificity, that may not play well in Peoria, that has a different rural or urban split, those types of bills do travel. Having travelled all across this province, perhaps not as rural as you would like, but as, for example, Chair of the Justice Policy Committee, Chair of Social Policy, always, by the way, more or less, I think, Chair since I've been here 12, 13 years, we have travelled endlessly across Ontario, and hopefully I think at least some of those areas were in fact rural. So, Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, our government is very proud of representing the most marking change of beer in Ontario for over 90 years. We listen to consumers and we offer them more choice and more flexibility. These changes are the reflection what Ontarians do.
Ontarians want. Pour la première fois dans l'histoire.
For the first time in Ontario history, beer will be sold in grocery stores. 94 new sales points, 150 before by May 1st, 2017. It would be the largest operation of beer. We will have pilot projects in LCBO stores.
150 stores by May 1st, 2017. That's roughly, Speaker, the same number of beer store outlets that exist today. In addition, in 10 LCBO stores, we'll run pilots where 12 packs can be sold. While
waiting for the sale of beer in grocery stores, we want to have more flexibility, more choice. The final process to obtain permits will have take into account different things, including to ensure the value for consumers and to ensure that there is fair competition and to avoid too much concentration in communities throughout the province, continuing at the same time to follow the principle of social responsibility.
For awarding licenses or other permission will balance a host of considerations, including how to secure good value, meet best meet demands, ensure fair competition, avoid undue concentration, and serve communities across the province, rural as well as urban. While, of course, Speaker, something that I support not only as the parliamentary assistant to the Premier, not only as Chair of Justice, not only as the representative of the Etobicoke North, but also, of course, in my capacity as a physician, adhering to the principles of social responsibility. And I appreciate that the table officers are appreciating my remarks as well.
This allows the beer store to be closer to its roots in the community by offering more production to Ontarians, and to respond more to the interest of stakeholders, of both owners of restaurants, bars, and consumers themselves.
It's a deep issue. The remarks are only 5 minutes. We look forward to doing more in committee. Thank you.
Thank both members. Since there are no further late shows, this house is deemed adjourned until tomorrow at 9 o'clock.